I'm not sure if we're even on the air.
Yeah, things are rattling everywhere. I've got a new configuration for the microphones I'm trying for this one. And I'll try to mix in this microphone, which is on the Hero 8, which I've never done with the Hero 8. But this is the smallest 66-pound subwoofer I've ever had to review. It's the Emotiva S12. And they make an S8, which I've already reviewed. And they make an S12, and they make an S15, which I don't know if it's being discontinued or not. I do know that this is getting updated at some point in the future. There's also like a 13-inch murder box that they have. And you could tell from looking at it compared to my Rhythmic, even though my Rhythmic is up on some 4-inch foam blocks for reasons, there's a slight size discrepancy here where this is a tiny little baby sub. You the cutest little thing. You're the cutest little, just watch its chin. 500 watts, RMS, 750 peak, Emotiva, Class D. I'm going to put this back on for a second because there's a reason. $700 in case you're wondering. And it's essentially a 16-inch cube, 15-inch cube. I don't think SVS makes one this size that isn't just a 10. I could be wrong. I know they make a bunch like a 12-inch, but I know that this has a special property that SVS doesn't compete with. You see, hold on. You see this, which I put this back on to show you. I love the corners are cut and this is cut. So this is like, what is that? A hexagon? Hex is 6. It's oct. It's an octagon. It's a slight octagon with angles here that continue onto the box itself. And it really gives the impression that this is like a geometric sphere in the front. I really like that. I would leave that on. I don't usually leave covers on subs, but I would for this one. You see, that isn't the driver. That's a passive radiator. The driver that's actually making the wub-wubs is on the bottom of this unit. It's another 12 pointing down. So just like the 8-inch S8, it's doing that and that. And the reason for that is you lose all port chuff. When you have a port, when you seal a subwoofer completely, when you just have a box and driver, you get a very tight bass because the driver's trying to fight a vacuum and then it's trying to compress air, and it's in a constant losing battle, so it just squeezes hard. So you need all this power, but it resets the driver real fast because obviously there's no place for it to go. When you port something, you tune the port just so, and the air goes out and comes back in, and the is called chuffing. Now, if you make the port big enough, or a slot, or you steal B&W's golf ball patent, which I hate that the fact that they have that patented, like the little dimples to quiet the air down. They fucking own that. Do you believe they own that? Hold on, I have to get over there for a second because you guys can't possibly survive without a wallpaper on the background. I know how this works. Great show. So what was I saying? So sealed does that. Port can chuff, but you can tune a port so you can get down lower because the driver can move more because you have a hole in it. And you tune the port and the driver, and all of a sudden you get lower and lower. This, not sealed, but there's no opening. It's a driver on the bottom, and I'm going to flip it over. It's going to get flipped over. I want you to imagine 66 pounds for a second in a cube. All right, I'm gonna attempt to chuck it onto the daybed while plugged in, because this is a Z review. Oh Jesus God! Oh Jesus God! I had it on some furniture sliders, by the way, in case you're wondering how I was able to move it so easily. Link to furniture sliders in the description. That's the active driver there. This giant, like this doesn't even feel like rubber anymore. We're into this stage where it feels like some sort of robotic polymer skin. And they're exactly the same. This has no magnet driving it. And if I push, you see if I push that one, this one moves. When I push this one, that one moves because there's no air coming in and out. This is a solid Oh, another interesting fact. And you want to know why this? You want to know why this weighs 66 pounds? It's not because there's no magnet structure here, so it's not like the magnet's massive. This isn't made of MDF. This is made of HDF. If you don't know what MDF stands for, it's medium density fiberboard. And most subwoofers and most speakers are made out of MDF because you can get it and it's not bad. If you ever used a clipboard, like a brown clipboard with a metal thing on top, that's HDF. So that's that thick and, you know, lives forever. That's high density fiberboard. So Emotiva has taken amongst themselves to make this out of high density fiberboard, and it is ridiculously heavy because of that. Like, I don't know if they needed to do that and then brace it like they did, but they did. And now it hurts me to move it. And it comes with these very large feet because it has to clear the excursion of this. So putting it up on top of sliders probably wouldn't hurt to get a little bit more lift, because you know what? It's only about an inch, and I'm pretty sure if I put that seam back on, we can watch this thing just get violent. Camera back there. I need to put it back, not here, although looking at the back of it would probably not be the worst. I do have one little thing. I like the fact that there's no Emotiva logo except for right there on the surround, or the rubber around it. There's 8 of them. And then this has nothing, and there's no directionality to this, so you could just put it on. It does use regular plastic pegs, usually with subwoofers of this sort of caliber and murder. Subwoofers of this level of murder, they do something special. It's either giant pegs or, actually, I don't think I've ever had one that's magnets. I've never had a subwoofer grill that's a magnet. The SVS ones are the metal grills, and you used to have to hammer those on with a rubber mallet because they'll just shake off. So this, I'm amazed, doesn't shake off because it's very, very light. It's just, here you go, that's it. That would be my only concern, is that might be too light of a way to hold that on. But I mean, can you get this actually has some sort of design flair due to that shape, that Emotiva weird construction, like slight edges, Battlestar Galactica paper roll has the edges cut off sort of thing. So I'm not going to show you this anymore because this is at the bottom and it's heavy and it's evil. Think I can get it back on that? Everyone wishes Zeos luck. Zeos needs all the luck. Don't hurt my back. Don't hurt my back. Don't hurt my back. Oh God, the thing went down. It went straight down. I don't even know. Zeus is the best. Nope, I missed one. There we go. All right, it's not going to be the best mount, but here we go. Let's look at the back, because the back's important. I'm going to have to get... See, the problem is I usually review giant subwoofers like this, and I could sit here and go, oh, look at this. Which, by the way, I want to point out, I am running a mini DSP HD here, and that controls the signal coming from my surround receiver. Comes in, this is the signal here, and the back of this unit can send signal to 4 different places. One is now going to this VU, which I got on eBay, which I will link, and it's just RCA in, and then you need 5 volt, and then it can display. And I did that because I really wanted to know what is happening to my 0.1. Like, when is my 0.1 going off? When is it those front subs? They're currently disabled, by the way, so everything you hear when I'm doing tests will not be coming from those front infinities. I've set these Heresy 4s in the front on my receiver to cross over at 70 hertz, so, which is about natural for them. And that means everything below 70 hertz is being pushed to the 0.1, which is here. And when we put on a movie, like we did with The Edge of Tomorrow, that is obviously going to send the 0.1 track, which is the dedicated low-end track, to this. And that's what we have. So now, how am I going to look at the back of this? Because that's easy, because that's there. This is a very small... I'm going to have to get... I'm laying down. All right, we're going to do this... awesome style. I don't want to unplug these, that'll make a loud pop. But you have 2 RCA inputs, and it says in the manual they're summed in the sub. When you have an LFE, you could use just one. I always put one of these Y splitters on, just because I've had subwoofers in the past that will take the voltage from one and the voltage from the other and add it. And if you only plug in one side, it's actually like 3.5 decibels quieter. So just my OCD from the past, I always run a splitter to feed both. You don't have to. There is an XLR input here that they recommend. Now, there's not many surround receivers or processors. Well, processors. I'm sure Emotiva sells one that has a 3-pin XLR input, and that will actually be a higher voltage and resist naughty bits of interference along the way much better than an RCA. It's just, it's hard to get to. The power mode switch is auto or on. There is no off. There's just on or auto. The off would be this switch down here, which is the main cutoff breaker for the power. So you either want it to turn on and off, or you want it to just be on. Now you have 4 knobs. Top one's volume. I have it basically at noon, maybe a little above noon. Again, I'm using the Mini DSP HD, so I have actual ability to switch between 4 profiles of different volumes and cutoffs, but it's mostly just up and down 3 decibels. So it goes, let me think, it goes +3, 0, -3, -6. So I can just switch that with a remote control. One of the things about this sub, and I'm sure I sound weird because I'm on the floor, it's $700. And it's the smallest kick-ass sub that I've reviewed. All right? I'm sure SVS is something they're going to send me at some point and be like, hey, what about this? But right now, nothing has the passive radiator front, down firing, anything, and then 500 RMS. I'm sure SVS will also come out with something with more power. But this thing actually is pretty and performs. And what was I talking about? Oh, knobs. Volume, then there's an LF boost. Now, LF boost is actually a modification of, this is a nice place to sit. Look at my projection screen, it's so nice. LF boost is actually a modifier of the frequency response. If you leave it at 0, which is where I should have it, it basically is the natural curve of this sub. I'm going to specify a negative right now. According to the measurements, this starts at 24 hertz. Now that rhythmic with a port plugged, it goes down to a 13, 12 or 13, which is absurd, by the way, and that's only because it's a servo sub, and it's literally forcing the, I'm not going into servo subs again. But the LF boost here will actually not increase the volume, but change the shape of the response curve. At 0, it's a normal response curve. If you're finding the sub is booming where you placed it, you lower that knob, the LF boost, down. So it takes away, I think it said roughly around the 30 hertz mark, will actually drop up to 3 decibels. And then you can turn it up and actually raise the specific LFE frequencies up to, this says +9. I thought I read in the manual it said +6, but it says +9 here. So I'm gonna put it to 0 and leave it there. Because we could do a lot of weird, kinky things with it. Hi. Welcome to a Subwoofer review. You are Chewbacca. You feeling better? You get your antibiotics? This is Chewbacca. She's my cat. She's 16 years old. Oh, and she got a scratchy ear. She got a scratchy ear because of an ear infection. You go open your thing. Go. You're distracting everyone. People are trying to buy a subwoofer here. Do you understand? There's a lot of money riding on this. If they buy this, they're out 7 large. What is it, 7 large? I forget. I wasn't Italian enough in New York where it's like 7 big ones or 7 large, 7 pizza pies. Okay, she's gonna just sit up there. So LF boost basically is their equivalent of room tuning. And I like it because a lot of times room tuning is just a switch where it's up or down. This is a full mess with it knob, and one of the things you need a well-trained human being or cat. She is not well-trained, or she's too old to give a fuck. But she loves subwoofers, as is blatant. And you would have someone, while you're listening to a very consistent, repeatable, low-end event, either in a movie or music, we're gonna get to music in Hawaii, I think this is one of the best subs for music, turn this knob slowly, just a little bit, 15 degrees at a time. And you're gonna just go until it sounds wonky, and then go back, and it sounds wonky again, or it sounds low, and you find your perfect spot. So I'm okay with that. It's just, for $700, I know SVS has apps, and you could apply things, and you could change things from your couch, which is nice, because, again, my cat, Chewbacca, turn the knob. She's a good girl, but she can't turn the knob. So I'm sort of stuck futzing with it. Your crossover is here, which can cut all the way down from 60 and below only, or 150 hertz and below only, which is actually not that fine. Usually I would like to cut off a little bit lower than 60, but I have it obviously nailed to 150 because the receiver is cutting off frequencies and the mini DSP can do that if I wanted. And then your phase adjustment. Now this is a timing thing. This is basically a delay. So when sound happen out versus sound happen, wait, then out or in, it can't actually make it go backwards at 90. So it's just a delay of one cycle of the driver. And that has to do with if you have your front speakers like I do set to offload their low end to a subwoofer, if they're perfectly in line, like these are basically perfectly in line with those, there's very little phase change. But this one sits here, it's about 2 feet closer. The speed of sound actually matters, and you would adjust the phase to properly match it so that when that goes whoop, this waits just specifically long enough to go whoop, and then everything transfers forward and sounds fine. Big old heatsink here in the middle, which is nice to see. A lot of these big subs do not have a heatsink on the outside, which means there's a heatsink only on the inside. And I don't know if you ever put a heatsink in a giant box before, but it tends to not work so well. Now, I don't know if it's just because this is such a tiny box, they had to do this. But I like it. It does get a little bit warm if you're hammering, but that's just amplifiers, baby. All right, Chewbacca, you may go back up. That's her little hole, by the way. That actually, there's a box from the Dayton Ultimax subwoofer I built. That was the magnet. They have 2 of those, one for the top and one for the magnet. And it's years. She's been using that box for years. You've been using that box for years. What does it smell? Did I do something? I apologize. Okay, so very basic controls in the back, other than LF boost, which is something that you don't see on most subs, but at least it's a simple process. SVS tries to rewrite the book a lot with apps and front controls and everything. This is just basically, hey, let's just build a really powerful sub and we'll put the big thing for me is I love passive radiators because they don't chuff. And the way you tune a passive radiator is with weights, very specific. So you have the active drivers smashing down and the front one is just sort of floating there. But you can make that weigh a little bit more and slow it down, make the mass perfectly align. And they've done that with this. Now, I got to get back to a statement that I made while I was laying on the floor and all the blood was rushing back to my head. This only claims down to 24 hertz, which is, I'm going to just say, not fantastic for a home theater sub. Usually you want 20 or under. You want 20, 16, 15 is like, this does like 15 or 14, which is the golden spec. I know some people are insane and they want like 8. 8 is attainable, but not with your sanity. So like if I can hit 12, 13, I think with this, that's fantastic. What we just watched, The Edge of Tomorrow opening, hits some absurdly low number. And you should have noticed in the recording or whatever I had mixed in, it sort of, you saw the driver moving, but it was silent. And I believe that that is a problem. But if you watch any of my other videos where I talk about speakers and music, the magic number that I've chosen from listening to music all day is 25 hertz. When people say, oh, why bother getting these giant speakers if you still need to add a sub? Because whatever speaker you have, apparently except for that Buchart tower, Buchart is making a tower that does 19 hertz. I'm just pointing that out. That's absurd if that's truth. But most speakers, and I'm talking about 99.999 fucking 4%, do not touch even under 35. So to say, for me to say, okay, I think a music system is complete when it can reach down to 25 hertz. Here goes 24. And it's a tight 24. Because now we're going to get into a little bit of theory. I don't know if I'm mixing these in. Here, Zeus, wait, you recording this? Great. I'm going to do a little bit of back and forth over here just to make people sick. And you could just cut this one off and just have this go on. So, subwoofer theory. And I've covered subwoofer theory sort of a little bit before. And I'll put some... Actually, I'm going to do maybe 1 or 2 more music video clips. Because, you know, copyright and shit.
This is a series of
But ported versus sealed. I will usually tell people if they're doing mostly home theater, get a ported sub because it can go down lower because it opens it up and it allows that driver to go and stay in the low 20s to high teens. You got a sealed sub, it can't excurge. Is that a word? Is that a word? The excursion can't possibly be as high unless they put 3 times the power in, and then it's still not going to sort of be tunable for the air as much as a ported sub. However, the speed you gain from sealing a subwoofer lends itself much better to music. Like, think about a kick drum, a bass drum, and a drummer set. That's a big drum, closed on both sides. He hits it with the thingy on the floor with the thing, and it goes boom, and then it just resets. That's what a sealed subwoofer is meant to do. And that sort of like low-end tightness is required. When you put a ported sub into music duty, it can still do it. It just feels like you're driving a 4x4 truck on a racetrack. It's a little bit heavy. What you need is light and speed and fast. So I tell people to go with sealed subs, either 1 or 2. These are not sealed. We'll get to those, why I have those. So this is a wonderful combination hybrid because it has essentially it has a port that's that driver in front. I love this thing. So that driver in front is allowing the driver on the bottom to excurge more. I'm going to use the word excurge. Hashtag excurge. I feel like I've invented that now. So the excurge is allowed to be greater because the box full of air can go somewhere else. It's going to the front, and it's making the excursion on the front happen. However, because of this thick, heavy surround and the fact that it's trying to reset from probably the spider inside also, that's essentially going somewhere in between a sealed box where the air pressure is holding it in place and a port where there's nothing really holding it in place but the driver itself. Now you have 2 drivers trying to reset itself perfectly. So it's one of the better musical subwoofers I've heard. And that's saying something. Because I've heard a lot of subwoofers, and everyone always asks me, how about this giant SVS sub for music? And it's like, it's great for Edge of Tomorrow. When shit goes whomp, that's the one. This will make things shake in your house. 24 is not something you wouldn't brag to your friends who were into home theater about your 24 hertz. But you throw this in a system, like I shoved every bit of hertz from the Klipsch Heresies into there from 70 and under. And if I go to, and I don't want to bring music up right away, but we'll do that. We'll bounce a little bit. What's a good low end track? That's not going to get me pulled off of this immediately. Dead Mouse. Bad selection. Now Chewbacca's probably going to go, but she's used to this, so it's fine. And I want to just take note of that VU meter. It has green for the bottom half, then amber, and then red at the top. And we're on 12? 12 on that, which I am controlling it with my surround receiver. So if I hit enter on this. Now, again, I can't play much because YouTube is YouTube. But did that wire fall down? No, it didn't. But you can see we are reaching at least the amber. We're in an amber alert over here, which isn't that a child stolen or is that a pink alert? I forget. No, amber alert's definitely a kidnapping. You good? No kidnappings. And it handles the low end with dignity. I've put this on for the low end, this thing. And this is a servo sub, and it's giant, and it's $900, which is only a couple $100 more than this. And this can do music very well. But if you asked me when you come to my house, hey, you got these Klipsch Heresies, they don't do the low end really like it. Do you use this sub? No. I use those Infinities, which I said I was going to talk about. Those are more on my knees, please. Zeus, more on your knees. These were found on Amazon, and they were found probably in a warehouse, because these are like an 8 or 9-year-old subwoofer that no one bought. They originally were $1,200. They're a 10-inch, front-firing 10-inch, all right, Infinity. It's like, wow, but I love this wood, and it's beautiful looking. And that's not why I use them. I use them because they're a 10-inch with not one, but 2 passive radiators, also 10-inch. So I'm actively powering them currently with a Crown 1502 over there. And you can't buy these anymore. They came up on Amazon for $200 a piece. They had amplifiers in the back of them. Hi. The amplifiers, one of them blew out because age and just failures. And I decided, all right, strip them both out, close the holes up with cutting board, and just power them separately with a Crown amplifier, just straight to the units. And then I use a mini DSP over there to control what these do. And that's the most musical sub you can have. Enter this, which has the same power as my Crown amp is feeding these. Bigger driver, also has passive radiator, is available for purchase, and I think is one of a reason I use those is they're good for music, because they're sealed. They're essentially sealed. They're passive radiator. This, passive radiator. This is the musical sub of 2020 so far. This might be the musical sub of this channel's whole history. Because I've done a lot of home theater subs that have, kicked ass and taken names, and there was that cylinder SVS that slammed on the ground, and that's all wonderful. But when you actually have to play like music, and I'm not talking about just deadmau5. deadmau5 is a wonderful example to make that meter go up and down. But if I just shuffled, which I have to get out of this. There, perfect example. Who doesn't have the Die Hard soundtrack in FLAC? And by the way, the Die Hard soundtrack, Michael Kamen, is amazing. If we crank this up a little bit. Oh, no. We turn this up a bit. This is a quiet track. And we just go back and I look, because again, it's going to get me no. If you join my Patreon and subscribe star, just know, the more people that join that, the less I worry about this becoming demonetized, and I'll just play more music all day. As long as they don't block it. I hate that. But if we watch this during what is essentially not a deadmau5 track, you hear Tubers? Good. Where's my... See that little, like, just 4 or 5? 4, 5, 6? It's just enough whoomp. And it does it perfectly. It doesn't have an app. It doesn't have front controls. It's the smallest little baby thing. It's got a WAF factor that might actually work. If you don't know what the WAF is, it's the wife acceptance factor. But it's 2020, so it's the partner acceptance factor. But PAF sounds stupid, so we're going to say WAF still. And someone's got to be the wife in this situation. Because someone's going to not want a sub. I don't want you to get a giant ugly sub. That is a cat holder as far as anyone's concerned. It's my cat's stand. Don't you have a lovely cat? I have a lovely cat stand. But that's giant. This, you could hide this under an end table. You could put a sheet over it to be like, nah, it's nothing. It's nothing. The fact it's got no port means it won't even chuff in and out. It'll just do things. And for music, it is fucking exceptional. Oh, and I want to point something else out before I forget. When I first got this sub, which has been a couple weeks now, it's been well over a month. Well over a month I've been using it. I didn't like it. It was making noise. I tried it. I got out of the box and I immediately did the Edge of Tomorrow test, and it was rattling around and doing things up. Oh, Jesus God, what happened? It's trying too hard. Break-in is a thing. Break-in is a thing. I would say this subwoofer has 12 to 15 solid hours. And I want you to listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth. Not 12 to 15 hours of me watching movies. 12 to 15 hours of demanding action scenes. So you're looking at 75, 80 hours of use. Maybe 10, 12 of those were like my subwoofer is doing things. Don't judge, it's just like a brand new car. You got a brand new Mustang, you start it up, you go, oh, I'm gonna go drag racing, and it says no. Parts need to wear in. Parts need to touch each other, metal needs to rub, little bits are gonna fall off, it's gonna seat itself. Those are very large mechanical devices on these drivers. And they're not going to just be perfect out of the factory. They gotta loosen up, they gotta stretch. There's not lubrication going on, they're just getting used to movement. Now they could probably do that at the factory if they wanted to keep these things running. It's another thing, with a headphone, you gotta break in a headphone, you plug it into a little portable player, you plug the player into the wall, you plug pink noise on it, you make it go tss for 100 hours. You can leave the headphone in a drawer. Good luck sliding your $700, 66-pound, 12-inch with passive radiator subwoofer in a drawer and letting it burn in with pink noise for 100 hours. I'm sure someone can do that. I can't. If you can, raise your hand. So you need to use it. You need to get it in there. Many speaker companies are like, oh, you got to burn our speakers in for 100 hours. Someone said the Klipsch Heresies here need 50 plus hours of break-in. And I'm like, well, they're every day, all day. And you know what? They sounded great before break-in. Break-in's not required in a lot of things. Some things you just take them out of the box, they sound great. And just use them. And maybe in a month, who cares? They sound better. I didn't even notice. But that, I can tell you, I can promise you, as soon as I turned it on, I was like, oh God, it is not handling this low end well. Like, I could actually hear it. And then a little bit of tuning on the mini DSP, getting the volumes right, just at least the volume right, adjusting that setting in the back, and then just slowly raising up the volume as I played it for weeks and weeks, and now it's perfect. Now we can go back, we could do Michael Kamen, or we can do... That's no bass at all. I mean, we can just do no bass at all. That's Ennio Morricone, Once Upon a Time in America. We're getting 4 bars. That's halfway up. And it's just boom, boom, boom. It's just boom, boom, boom. And I know these Heresies have a 12-inch. These Heresies have the exact same size driver. That 12-inch is a 12-inch, and that 12-inch is a 12-inch. But there's a very, very big difference with the way these are designed to work. That is meant to move air very little, very quickly, little bursts of forward-firing sound pressure. And that is meant to just sound pressure as hard as humanly fucking possible. So that's why when you say, oh, a 12-inch is a 12-inch is a 12, it's not. Not even a little bit. The surround's a giveaway, the magnet, how it's designed, what the structure's made out of. All right, let's go out of Muzak. One more Muzak. Yeah, right there. Perfect. I could mute that. Hold on. I can do... Where's my remote? Where's my emote control? Because Zeos' house is full of magic. I can hit the power button on this, which will tell the mini DSP to literally mute that, so you can hear what happens when I shut it off, and I'll try to get out of the way of the mics.
We turn our heads and cover our faces, nothing devour the sky. And
Hold on. Because now I have 4 levels. I find when I'm doing music, and I found this in other reviews too, when I'm doing music, I tend to want the subwoofer up a little higher. Then if I've calibrated with surround receiver, 0.1, edge of tomorrow, set that thing to just not quite blow up at my listening volume, that's one volume. You put on music, you want KG Elephant to have a little more backup, you tend to have to go and turn that subwoofer up. Mini DSP HD obviously helps me with this because I could just do it with my remote. But I don't know if I just unmuted it or muted it. All right, KG Elephant is very loud. We're gonna change that. Penny royalty. Oh. Here, actually, I'll do one better. Where is it? I will mute the speakers. We'll listen to just the subwoofer for a second. And hopefully it doesn't sound like absolute horse trash. Horse trash is a thing, I invented it. Okay, we go here and here. One of the beautiful things about being able to turn the speakers off and listen to the sub is you can tell everything that's failing in your house. I'm pretty sure the copyright system also won't pick that out as music, so. What is this? Another Die Hard. Oh, a good day to Die Hard. No one wants this. You could actually just hear. I don't know if these good. I don't know which one I'm going with on the mix in post. If I'm going to mix this in, because usually the old GoPro used to pick up a lot of the low end, just a nice mono and perfect. And these sort of like don't want to pick up low end. I have to give them a little bit of a boost. But yeah, Jeff Buckley, Leonard Skinnard, Bear McCreary is actually pretty great. Game of Thrones, the biggest fire the North has ever seen. Remember when Game of Thrones wasn't shitty? I remember. So anyway, right now, that's the only thing making sound in this apartment. You can see the VU meter is creeping up near the halfway point. And that sound was... Oof. It's like Jurassic Park in here. In fact, let's give one more. I'm going to control Alt F4 the music. I'm gonna leave that muted. I'll go back to the movies. We're gonna pop on that one scene in Jurassic Park. You know the scene I'm talking about. Chewbacca knows the scene. I know exactly where it is too. It's at 1 hour and 4 minutes. I'm the best. So now, how do I put this? Because this is going to sort of stray away from just the subwoofer, because the subwoofer is going to come in very big for this. But I want to point out that I've never actually heard a Tyrannosaurus Rex until I had the Klipsch Heresies up here, wired to those, and then with the sub, and then this. So, I mean, I could do this scene with this. I'm going to do it with the sound muted, so you're going to get rear channels, and you're going to get 0.1 sub, and that's it. And I'll stand back so you can hear it. I'm going to do this, however, because that is way too loud. Holy God. Chewbacca's going to freak out. We can watch that go. Hold on. Hi, baby. You want to do it again, Chewbacca? With the speakers on. But you have little precious ears. You don't want to you don't want the scary dinosaur. She really doesn't like the dinosaur sound. I think they did a real good job of it. Isn't that a shame? Chewbacca just fucked everybody up. Everybody's upset now, Chewbacca. They wanted to hear it. I mean, maybe I could do it for like a split second and then it'll be fine. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I think I could leave this yeah, okay. Chewbacca, pay attention. I'm probably going to clip that. Oh, God, I'm clipping them bad already. Yeah, once you put those on, the clip indicators just freak out. But there's nothing like a good subwoofer to support cradle the balls of a movie that has them. I'll see if I can do this real. What are we at, 18? Come on, baby. One little yell, it's gonna be fine. And you know exactly how much of that yell came out of that subwoofer because I did it without it before. So yeah, no, a good subwoofer, really. I know I did that little snippet in the Joe and Tell home theater thing, and I basically said, don't buy a sub until you can buy the right sub. I think for a lot of people, that's going to be the right sub. Number one, it looks like a little tiny sub. It's a little baby. Oh, you spent a little baby. No, it's $700 and 500 watts. Shut up. But it can do 90% of what a movie would need it to do. It doesn't do 100%. That 24 sort of kills it. But, and this is a big but, what it makes up for with music is fantastic. Like if you have any sort of want for music beyond.
Of sounds.
It just fills in perfectly for anything musical. Now, the other option is, because I have to mention it, buying 2 of those, and then you're looking at $700, it's $1,400, because I do 2 in the front of mine, because I have literally in stereo, this subwoofer supports that speaker, that subwoofer supports that speaker, but I'm doing a whole bunch of weird shit to make that happen. It is possible, and don't think that just because you have a 7.1 receiver, you can't run 2 subs, I gotta buy a 7.2. Most of the time, they just run a splitter internally. You just hook up the subs to both. The most important thing when doing a sub like that is positioning, doing the sub crawl, getting in the right spot the first time, and then finding the sub crawl again, where's the second best spot it is, and then adjusting just the phase so that you can try to time between the 2. You can do multiple subs without a crazy expensive receiver or a mini DSP, although I would highly recommend if you're going to do something that nutso, you get a mini DSP and you could time between the 2. I mean, it's only $200 for that thing. And that thing, plug a laptop up to it and you could adjust everything. Oh, we scared Chewbacca away. It's all our fault. I have to end this now. To end it all. Anyway, I want to thank Emotiva for sending this to me. They're going to probably want it back. I don't know. They didn't want the 8-inch back, but... Oh, I forgot to mention this. I'll go back to the good mics. Zeos, back to the good mics. They have informed me that 12-inch, which has a very basic panel on the back of it, is getting an amplifier upgrade so that it has these similar features to the S8 with the RCA pass-throughs that do the cutoffs and probably speaker terminal ins and outs, which would make that sub not... Because right now that subwoofer is essentially a home theater sub. But you put RCA ins and outs, you do the cutoffs, you add speaker terminals, you might just be able to shove this son of a bitch under your desk. I don't know who you are that's doing that, but it is, in the future, it could very well be possible. There is no 10-inch, it's just 8 and 12. And I'm kind of okay with that for the simple fact that, I mean, it's not going to be any smaller than the 10-inch. The 8-inch is just a little bit smaller than that. I want to know how the 15 handles, and I want to know what that new 13.5-inch handles. So hopefully Emotiva will think about sending those my way. But that thing is fantastic, even with only 24 hertz. That is nothing to laugh about when you put that much power behind it, and it doesn't make any noise. Nice and tight. Nice and tight. Yes. I'm going to end this review. That's going to blow out the speakers. All right, whatever. Link to that in the description, or I'm going to link to the Emotiva's homepage, and you can navigate for it. I don't know. Emotiva has weird links that I can use. Thank you to Chewbacca for putting up with this shit, because she does it all the time, and I have to give her a shout-out. I'm glad she's feeling better. Thanks to High School DxD for giving me that wallpaper, and for giving it to you in the description below. And by the way, all wallpapers are available in the descriptions of every video and on my Patreon and Subscribestar if you want to find the original artists. You can look them up on Sauce Now or IQDB. If you want to support this channel or see these videos early or ask me any questions, you can do that on Subscribestar or Patreon. Usually these videos come out a week or more early to the subscribers. And you could ask me any questions you want on platform, although try to keep them short. Because some of the big long questions, my brain. Don't give me your life story. Just be like a real simple question, and we'll have a dialogue back and forth. I'm trying to adjust people's perspective on that. And finally, yard sales. If I get something from a company, like if they said, here, take this, I probably wouldn't sell that because it's so small. I can just keep it anywhere I want. But a larger thing, something that's taking up space, or something that I have 10 of, or something that I just can't use, all ends up in the yard sale. Every month from the 1st to the 10th, I sell whatever is available to just like, I don't need this portable player, I don't need these headphones, or I bought this, I'm willing to take a loss for it. I ship free, continental United States, it's half shipping international. If you live in Bangladesh and you want to buy something feel free to bid on it. Just know that you're going to get a second invoice when I know what the actual shipping cost is. And there's a higher tier, a $10 tier. A $10 tier of people who are fighting against me. Tin P1s are great. Tin P1s are great. And I think everyone should know that. And those guys basically get a lot of behind the scenes stuff. They know exactly what I'm doing, when I'm doing it, what I've arrived. They can pick various things like what videos come out next. Or we have a charity thing going on right now where Triangle has left me a pair of speakers to sell, and we're putting all the money towards charity. Those guys are going to pick the charity. So if you want to be sort of behind the scenes and see reviews, the $10 tiers and higher are where you want to be. The higher tiers will eventually be used for hardware swap, although I highly doubt anyone's going to want to ship giant subwoofers from place to place to try it. Although, why not? I mean, it's America, damn it. And I think that's it. Check out Hi-Fi Guides. There's an entire home theater section on Hi-Fi Guides now. Hi-Fi Guides is a site that does headphone. It was originally just headphone recommendations, and it's a nice, educated. Damn it! I had a really good name for that stupid search engine, audiophile search reduction engine. Anyway, go there and there's like speakers, headphones. Currently, there's like desktop sources and subwoofers. But the forum that's attached to Hi-Fi Guides is anything you want to know. It's really coming along well, and the people who are helping us mod it are fantastic. And it's got everything that I've reviewed has a post there before the review comes out. So there's already discussions going on. If you want to, in other words, if the comments below here are not up to your standards of living, feel free to check out the link in the description to Hi-Fi Guides, or just go to hifiguides.com and then click the forum link and navigate to home theater and subwoofers, and you'll see this there. Anyway, that's it for today. It's heavy, but I'll take it. And I like the way it looks with the grill on and that wallpaper. And that light is right in my eyes. And these are, by the way, Neumann KM184s, in case you're wondering. The same setup I do all my sound demos with. We've been doing this for 48 minutes. I apologize. How do I do that? Chewbacca, how do I do that? I'll work on it. I'll try to get this down to like 41 minutes.